I'm gonna start this again. Okay. I know this is a joke. This is, and we think we're gonna make progress like this. Natalie, I need to find you. I found you. Send. I think I just did it. I know, this is Bahia, hey. At least you can get a laugh out of this, right? If anybody's finding trouble laughing these days, well, just go ahead and laugh at me right now. This is what a white person looks like trying to talk about race. Come on. There you are, bro. Dude, go live. There we go.
All right, here we
There you are.
here we are. Okay, let me just ask you a question real quick.
Yeah.
We didn't check the. How's that? Kind of
Yeah,
a loud.
that's a good level. It's good for me. I mean, I have headphones in. I'd
Gonna
recommend for
get
anybody
high,
who's listening.
go get. Okay.
Yeah, that's nice.
Okay, cool. So that works. That works.
Mm.
Cool. All right.
That's good, man. That's
Okay.
good.
All right. Cool. So let's go with it.
Well, how are you doing?
Um, I think as somebody who you know, I'm getting my PhD in Black politics and Black history, and so just to be completely honest with you, as someone who perpetually looks at the history of our experience, um, I've become used to Black pain,
Mm.
and that's always been something that's been central. And so I can't say I'm surprised, but what surprises me is other people's being surprised and other people's unwillingness to accept that maybe this might be in their front line and maybe they might have something to do with this issue. And and I think that's a problem. And I think right now we're at that place where we've had enough safe conversations. And
Yeah.
I think what we're seeing right now is an issue that has never gone away, has never gotten better, only gotten filmed. And we can't keep expecting to have these conversations when the people who benefit from these systems of oppression don't want to feel uncomfortable.
Mm.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
That's that's what I'm coming into the most. When I talk to my friends of any color, but I think particularly when I'm talking to white people now, within my family, especially, like, it's coming to terms with how uncomfortable it needs to be just to even really begin, just to begin in the appropriate way.
exactly.
I mean, we were talking earlier, and you said something that really resonated with me is that we haven't even really begun in a way. There's a lot of optics out there. I mean, the funny thing about social media is that it gives you a sense that something can be quite substantial, that it's happening. And
Yeah,
there have been a lot of outspoken, I think, particularly like white people or non-black people of color, but I'm gonna stick to white people. I'm only gonna talk about that. I think there's this sense that this conversation has been going on for a long time, that we've been doing something, but the truth is, like, where is the substantive change
that's
to
part.
show us that?
Yeah,
Where is the change to actually show us that anything has
yeah,
progressed?
yeah.
You know, in some ways, I've always feared as a, if I can call myself, I'm, you know, trying to come into consciousness. Um, I've always feared that sometimes when you see things that are getting a lot of attention, truly what happens is you're delaying this substantial change because
Yeah.
it's getting a lot of media time, and that's this
Hmm.
strange phenomenon, you know. Um, and I would be careful from my place to not judge anybody who's in a position, who's got a platform. Everybody, I think, probably has a lot of good intentions, but we know the good
Yeah.
intentions are not enough, you know.
Yeah, and that's so important for us to realize is, you know, racism's a disease, and no one intends to have a disease, but you still have it, and you still got to confront it. And I think
Mm,
what we're seeing is the construct of race, the construct of racism has existed for so long and so strategically and so intentionally that unless we approach it with the same rigor that it was created in, we're not going to
mm,
finish it. And what we need to remember is millions of people died to create this system. Millions of people bled, millions of people struggled. And
mm.
what we're seeing right now is not a shock, you know. And I think it's interesting, and something I was talking to somebody was, it feels like black people are the only people in the world where we look at what they've gone through, we acknowledge that this is some of the worst oppression that has ever existed, but then we say, you can't do anything about it. But that goes against the very nature of the structures that are saying to us to go about it in the ways that they want us to. Do you know what I mean? And I think
Wait,
we
say
got to
that again.
hit,
Say that again, because I mean, we could all do it to
yeah,
really listen.
yeah. So only black people will be told to remain passive, will be told to remain um, patient, will be told to remain silent when their oppression is being exasperated. And I can't think of too many other people and too many moments in history where that was something that was accepted, especially when we look at how this country was formed. I mean, this country, you know, started a riot because they didn't want to pay taxes on tea.
Mm,
You know what I mean? You know, and so for this country, which was welded in defiance, in violence, in sort of independence, and when black people are attempting to get that independence by nonviolent means, and yet we are still met with violence, only black people are being told that you still have to remain in that tactic. You still have to allow your communities to be destroyed, to be killed.
mm.
And it's this double standard, but it's a standard that was set by white supremacy. And it's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow. But if the people who benefit from that system can't swallow that pill, then we just gonna keep
See,
dying.
this is the thing that I'm thinking about. Like, you know how you said that, like you're talking about the unique role that Black Americans play, and I think you're talking about Black Americans, right? Because we have people from all around the world joining in,
Yeah,
and racism is global. There's no doubt about it. But we're
yeah,
talking about the unique plight of the African American and
yeah,
that lineage. And I
exactly.
think for European Americans, for white Americans, European Americans sounds kind of weird. Um, for white Americans, we have a unique role as well, I think.
Yeah,
And we have a unique role within, this is what I'm trying to figure out, right? Like we have a unique role to in what is first a conversation and you know, leads to action for the generations to come is like I my stance over the years has been increasingly confirmed in white people do not, I feel like what we have to relinquish is the privilege to be angry with anyone other than ourselves. Like even amongst each other, this the impatience of I think namely, you know, people who are white who call themselves liberals pride themselves on voting Democratic, you know. These are we could say these might be good things, but a lot there's a lot of posturing and performance to defend from the discomfort that will come when you really do
Do the
start
work.
this. Yeah, do the work. I
You know what
myself,
I mean?
that term, the work, you know, yeah,
Yeah.
no, it is. Do the work.
It's
Do the
it's
work.
work. This is hard, and if this really does upset you, then you should be willing to do the work. Now, if it doesn't upset you, then just say that, and we're gonna keep it moving, and our boat and our movement will keep moving. But if this
Right.
does move you, then you have to do the work. And if it makes you feel uncomfortable, if it makes you feel angry, if it makes you feel sad when you leave these conversations, well, remember that feeling and realize that's Black people's everyday life
Mm.
lived experience. Every day, all day, we are navigating that uncomfort, that that sadness, that anger. James Baldwin, he says, to be a Black American in this country is to constantly be in a state of rage
Mm.
because of what your reality is. And I think people don't understand that, you know. And unless I was saying this to my cousin last week on our live, was, to people who are looking at these protests happening. And I say protest because I think there's power in language. Because
Yeah.
when the media pinpoints it as riots, which it's not, the majority of those people there are protesters, not rioters, not looters. The
There's
majority of the
also a
events are
lot of,
protests.
there's totally, yeah.
But and it's not to
I
say
was
what's
just going to
going
say
on.
something that might not be helpful, but yeah, please go
Yeah.
ahead.
And they're, and it's not to knock what is happening, but I think it takes away from why we're there. And it's a tactic. It's the same tactic they used with Colin Kaepernick. It's the same tactic they used when Black Lives Matter
Mm.
started, was they diverted what we were talking about and made it about something else in order to galvanize people to move against it. And I think it's important for us to look at that and to realize that. And and I think that when people look at this, and if you haven't lived in a state of poverty like these people have lived, and if you haven't lived in a state of feeling unsafe like these people have, if you haven't lived in those conditions in which, the school to prison pipelines, where you're perpetually told, I can tell you stories of my upbringing of just being told we were worthless by teachers, by administrators, by disciplinarians. There's a psychology that comes with being Black all the time that constantly says you are not enough, you are not good enough, and who you are needs to be left at the door in order to be accepted by everybody else. And that just doesn't sit well. And I think if you haven't existed in that, then you can't understand what's going on in Minneapolis. You can't understand what's going on in Atlanta. You
Mm.
can't understand what's going on in Detroit. You can't understand what's going on in New York. You can't understand what's going on in your backyard.
Mm.
And that's the issue is. And I think for a lot of people who benefit from these systems, and for the most part who are white, they don't know how to listen without speaking and without centering themselves and without understanding. And that's
Wow, yeah.
something that really needs to happen.
Wait, you said they don't know how to listen without speaking and without
Yeah.
centering themselves. Yeah, so this is something that I feel like I was very recently, I was thinking of, in the last couple of days, I was thinking about the I'm gonna try and play with my words here, like the strange responsibility it is, the sickening responsibility it is, actually, when you realize what it is to be white. Because we're not actually white. I remember when my stepson said, the first time he ever mentioned the color of his skin, it was this very interesting moment where he goes, I don't like the color of my skin. And my wife and I look at each other, we're like, okay, where's this going to go? I think he's about 7. And he goes, I don't like being pink. And the only reason I mention that is just a reminder for, some of this stuff is maybe elementary for many, but for those who are sticking in this conversation, I think particularly for white people, it's like we have to remember that race is a social construct.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's just a matter of fact, right? And there is a point where it dovetails for like young white children and young black children in America, where like we always want, I think a lot of people want to hang on to um, how we are taught prejudice, how these are social constructs, so let's dismantle them. Okay, but so let's recognize that then when, let's say there's a white kid and a black kid growing up together, once they have to recognize that they are white and black, you know, one suffers a kind of violence and a life ahead of them. The other is this life of what we call privilege. But what I keep trying to, I don't know, encourage other white people to see is like it is a blindness. It is a blindness to a responsibility that you have. That actually, once you realize it, it's like coming to terms with I don't know, with like a sickness, a condition, something. And I think truly to exercise that, to exorcise that, to like really deal with that as a white person, it's gonna look like an eternal scream cry in a way, just the same way that you see it happening so viscerally
Mhm.
for Black Americans. I think if you're human, that you will experience at some point coming to terms with it, hopefully, you know, in coming to terms with the pain of this system. For you, it's going to be so uncomfortable, for us, I should say, for those who are listening who are, you know, I imagine there's a lot of young people, a lot of white people. So I'm kind of also thinking of speaking to them for just a moment.
Yeah.
It's just returning to this idea that it's extremely uncomfortable. Like even me now on this platform, it's like I don't want to think that I would change the way I speak when Matali and I are just speaking privately, but I also do have to a little bit, right? It's like I try to like
Yeah.
I'm a bit uncomfortable doing this only because I wouldn't want to be misconstrued or confused, but frankly, that's a chance that I at the very least have to be willing to take. It's a risk that I at the very least have to be willing to take. A lot of people were commenting on here, there were like 18,000 people who joined in right away, which I've never seen, by the way. The few times I've done a live, people jumped right in. And then, by now we have like just under 4,000, which is also pretty cool. But the only reason I'm saying that is like people are like, why are the views going down? Why are the views going down?
Because they don't want to do the work. They don't want to do the work, man.
Yeah.
They don't want to do the work.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them don't care.
And a person in my position has to completely risk losing views, losing follows. I mean, you might lose work.
Yeah.
I've not yet made that sacrifice, but like, we're going to be going down paths soon where the conversation will continue to get more volatile for the more and more people who aren't doing the work.
Yeah. And I think the uncomfortable thing is there is no longer this, I'm just remaining neutral, That's violent again. Like this system is so powerful that when you remain neutral, you allow these powers to exist, and therefore you are enabling. And I think like what a lot of people don't realize is right now we're at a place right now, and I know I speak for myself, but I know a lot of people feel this way. Is right now it's either you're with us actively doing the work as anti-racist folks, or you against us. There's no neutral. It's either do or die. You know what I'm saying? The stakes are too high. This is the world I'm going to bring my kids into. You know what I mean? And I'll be damned if it's a worse state than when I got in here. And I think, at this point now, it's like either you're in the circle or you're not. You know what I'm saying? And it's like either you're doing the work or you're not. And either you're with us or you're not. Because I think we've allowed people to feel safe. We've allowed people to feel comfortable in this conversation and we weren't doing any favors. Because it's like when you raise a kid, you don't do them any favors by spoiling them. You don't do them any favors by sugarcoating them. And we've been sugarcoating this pill for too long for these folks. And at this point now, it's like, fam, either you with it or you're not. Because for too long, y'all ignored us. For too long, you ignored our pain and ignored what we've been through. And only within the last 5 years have people started to be like, oh, we didn't realize you had it bad, which is a slap in the face to Black people everywhere. You know what I'm saying? I'm 30 years old. So that means for 24 years of my life, I spent having people tell me racism didn't exist. You know what I mean? For 24 years, I was told. And so for the high schoolers in there, understand the reality in the moment, in the window that you're coming into. You're coming into a place that I wish I was when I was in high school. You know what I'm saying? Because when I was coming up, you know, I've been in this struggle, you know, I've been about this life for 16, 17 years. And I remember always being told from classmates to teachers to adults to even family members being told this doesn't matter. You're wasting your time. To people who I considered my best friend telling me this doesn't matter. You're looking too deep. It's not always about race. You know what I'm saying? But from my experience of growing up in Atlanta and South Boston, I could tell you a whole lot of other things and tell you it is about race. It's always been about race. It never stopped being about race. It's just getting filmed. It's just getting chronologized. Technology made it so we can't ignore it. That's the reality. And now y'all want to see it, but then that's the only time you want to believe it. Because I question if we did not see George Flynn getting kneeled on, a lot of y'all would not be sharing this. If we didn't see a lot of these deaths, a lot of y'all would not be as empathetic to this struggle. And I think that's an issue. I think we should honor all Black death. You know,
without like the crazy thing is since 2014, Black Death has become more of a
it's hot topic, man. It's trending.
It's like all over the. I mean, that has been so hard for. I got Twitter and social media in 2014, right before Michael Brown was killed in Ferguson, August 9th, I think. Yeah, August 9th, 2014. And I mean, so my experience in social media has always been that. I follow a lot of voices who are outspoken and brilliant then. And I mean, I think for me, you know, I was extremely outspoken for the first like 2 years. And then I really, since about 2017, tried to start understanding also, okay, so there's this very outspoken way to supposedly be an ally. And this is right around when you and I met, because we're both Baha'is. And this is right around the time when I became a Baha'i. It was a couple years after I became a Baha'i and started to internalize these spiritual teachings, right? And so I understood like there's a responsibility I have also to be living this life, to really be living a life and teaching myself first before I you know, exhaust my thumbs on Twitter. Because I remember the Thanksgiving of 2015, after Michael Brown was shot. I remember there was something that I saw about his mother after having spent a day or maybe days or maybe weeks or maybe months, you know, kind of on social media about this. I just remember on this Thanksgiving day weeping, thinking about Michael Brown's mother, you know, and my hands were cold. My arms were cold. I was tingling and I was just like, this cannot be the only way this work happens, you know. It's like, this is the strange relationship with social media that we have to develop. It's like, it's so useful. It's so useful because also without it, what you're talking about may not, like, how else would this message have been received? Like, you know, the mainstream media was not gonna post, you know.
And it's important for us to remind ourselves when Mike Brown was murdered and when they decided not to indict Darren Wilson, I remember too vividly a lot of folks who considered themselves progressive, a lot of folks who considered them about this life, defending Darren Wilson and saying that his act was justifiable in killing Mike Brown. And I remember the responses from people who were white saying, we understand there's racism in this world, but Mike Brown is not the person to rally behind. You know, they said his life did not deserve to be honored by this movement. And I remember that so vividly because a month later, it's December, and they decide not to indict the officers who killed Alton Sterling. And that's a little bit of a different case.
It was in New York. Wasn't that in New York? You know,
Staten Island. Outside of, I think it was, was selling Lucy cigarettes. He was selling cigarettes on the street. And it was on camera, the cop strangling him to death. He suffocated to death. And he was saying, I can't breathe.
No, that's Eric
You
Garner,
know,
right? You said Alton
who
Sterling? Well, whatever,
in
man. I'm not
Staten
gonna correct
Island, maybe it was Eric
you.
Garner.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean,
the unfortunate truth is that
it's real.
there's like a lot of public cases
That's
to
real.
try and recall.
But
Sorry,
it's
dude.
just important that case is so important because it shifted because those same people who were saying we don't need to rally behind Mike Brown were now saying, yeah, people saying Eric Garner, we're now saying we should rally behind Eric Garner. And it was telling. It was like, man, the line's been drawn. I saw that black humanity came with terms and conditions to all of these people. And when we aren't, when we can't see it for all of our viewing pleasure, then it doesn't matter. And I wonder if a white woman was to be murdered, would we need a video? And not only would we need a video to believe that it was wrong, but would we want to see a video? And I believe that's
Yeah.
also telling.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I personally have not been able to watch any of these videos. Like, not in the last several years have I even let myself like click on them. And maybe,
Yeah,
not saying that's right or anything. I'm just saying it's like I can't. It's like, I mean, they're like snuff films. It's extremely disturbing that it's so prevalent that like, and now kids of all colors are 11, 12, 13. This is something they're very familiar with now, which is, on one hand has
and
a,
they're familiar with a movement. And I think that's beautiful in one way. And this is your
that's,
reality.
yeah,
But
right.
at some point, y'all young folk gonna have to take this wheel and really lead the charge and not sit back. Because what we're seeing is, we're seeing, and I think this is powerful. We're in the middle of a pandemic and people are out there protesting.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Let that, if you don't understand anything, understand that there's something that's so powerful that drives people so much that they're willing to go outside in a global pandemic to speak up against this. And if you can't understand anything else, just understand, what would you risk your life for? What would you risk the health of everybody around you for? You know what I'm saying? To fight for. You know what I'm saying? And don't tell me it's a pool party. Don't tell me it's a cookout. You know what I'm saying? Because this is bigger than all of those sort of things. And it's like, if you can sit here in this moment in time, in this week, in this month, in this time, in this moment in history, and not care, and not want to do something, and not want to talk about it, and not want to learn about it, we're doomed, not just for black people, but all of us, because this impacts everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. You might think
Yeah.
you're exempt, but you're going to find out down the road that you're not.
That's the thing. I mean, my personal feeling as a white person has always been like, this is not, and I'm speaking to you as a friend. You understand where I'm coming from, and I hope those who are listening understand too, in the context of this whole conversation. Like, there's a lens through which white privilege is not a privilege because it's a miserable blindness that leads you, it's like if you don't dismantle it, it's an extremely toxic headspace to be in your entire life. It's not, I mean, there's a reason that we don't look to, increasingly, we do not look to white voices in media for truth.
Yeah.
I mean, it's significant that representation of African Americans on social media is generally disproportionately large.
Yeah.
Because there's the truth seeing that experience lens, whereas like people in my position often, that privilege is blindness, and it's really I think that disconnects one from the reality of the soul, the reality of the heart. It's not a the one way in which it is not a privilege is in this spiritual manner, where
It does not
I
help you to benefit from
no,
the system.
not at all,
It
man.
does not help your character. It does not help who you are. It does not help your morality, your ethics. If you can benefit from the system and acknowledge that you benefit from the system and
Yeah.
still not want to do something to make this better for everybody.
So in the spirit of this, in the spirit of spirit, Maybe you can offer us a little something right now.
Yeah, man. Can you give me a second? I just want to get some water. I forgot to fill my water
Please,
bottle
yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah. Go ahead. I'll
Just
hold
let
down
me
the
just do
fort.
that. If you wanna, if
I'll
there's any
explain to people how
questions,
we
I think.
met, maybe, or yeah, there's people have been asking some questions.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Do what you want to do. I'll be right back.
Somebody said white privilege does exist. Yes, not at all. So if somehow I confused and implied that, you okay, let's see. I can give a little bit of background. So Natalia and I met back in probably it was 2016, maybe 2015. We both are Baha'is. So uh, the Baha'i faith is a world religion founded in 1844, whose singular pivot, all the principles of the Baha'i faith pivot around this oneness of humanity, which is a reality, which we're trying to recognize. Um, so Matali and I were actually playing music together in these devotional spaces, uh, with friends from all walks of life. And no, no, I did not say that white privilege does not exist. Somebody commented that white privilege does exist, which led me to wonder if, anyway, let's not get it twisted. White privilege definitely does exist. That's a given at this point. Um,
Um, I also just want to encourage folks. I am furthering these conversations. On my page, I'm going to be doing some various talks with various folks on relevant matters. And if this conversation is something that you all like, I think it's important for us to put ourselves in all the spaces we can where we have these conversations while we can.
hmm.
Especially under this lockdown where, you know, we have the ability to put ourselves in these spaces. So feel free to reach out. And yeah, so that's something.
I'm grabbing water real quick. It won't be as long though. So
Cool.
you
So if
say,
anyone wants, does anyone have questions about this that we're talking about?
I'm especially interested in how white people can talk to other white people. So there's a lot of things, right? There's a lot of things that need to be addressed. I, as a visible white person, am really trying to understand how to talk to other white people and white people who would maybe, I'm talking like I want to learn how to talk to the how many of the like 15,000 people who have left. You know what I mean? Like I feel like the 3,000 people we have here,
We should
like
have
you guys
started
are
with the
with
singing
us,
and
right?
dancing. Is that what you're telling
Like,
me?
hey, don't leave, but then you somehow get the message in there. I don't
Yeah.
know.
But no,
I
I
don't
think it's
know.
important. Personally, I'm like, if you want to get to the to what we're gonna get into, you gotta sit with this first. You know what I'm saying? It's
Hmm.
like, we ain't gonna give you what we're gonna give you at the beginning if you're not here for the right reasons. You know what I'm saying? And so I think it helps to set this tone for this conversation that we're about to do, and like with music
Mm.
and but I also think it sets the tone with everybody because I'm looking at the comments and I'm feeling an energy that I wasn't feeling before. You know what I mean? In terms of there is, I'm feeling we want to be here. We want to be in this moment. And
Mm.
I think that's what's so important about social media. And I really believe we're going to look at this period and we're going to say how social media was able to shift, sway, connect folks, especially during this time of COVID, where this now is real.
Mm.
You know what I mean? This interaction is a real life interaction under lockdown, under a pandemic. And if we can do that in these conditions, if we can connect with a global community that feel how we feel, that are looking for the answers. I remember being a younger person and feeling like I was alone in how I felt about this world. And I know if I was 15, and although, there's some social media, but not to the degree that we have right now. And if there was a way for me to feel a connection with all these different people, well, that would have been amazing. And so, yeah, man, use these tools for what we can and what we can do. And if we can't do much, at least we can have these conversations.
Mm.
But yeah, man, what do we want to do?
Um, One thing I was thinking about with, as I said, like talking to white people, talking to all people, really having conversations, really listening. I'd encourage any. So we're really accustomed with social media to a rate of consumption, whether it's something like, unfortunately, what we were talking about before, like this consumption of Black Death on social media. Somehow, also the consumption of things without meaning and the consumption of things with meaning is all too, like, it's just this, like, sometimes it's this mess. We just scroll, right? We just scroll. And the rate at which we scroll from
We
12
become
years old
desensitized to
to
it.
totally, yeah. So I'm going to encourage everybody here. This is where we want to, like, so maybe you're comfortable, maybe you're surprisingly comfortable in a conversation about racism. And it's not, we didn't really go hard today. You know what I mean? We didn't really, like, I don't know if this made anybody uncomfortable, but I think maybe now what can make some uncomfortable is some silence,
That
some
part.
space. So what again, Matali and I came together through our connection of the Baha'i faith, this system of spiritual teachings where prayer and meditation is a faculty of every soul, every human being, just without question. The question is whether or not you use it, whether or not you utilize it, right? Music is such an integral way to bring prayer and meditation to, like, in kind of an action, right? So I think right now what we're going to do is we're just going to get into that vibe for a little bit. And we can't like jam in the way that we have in the past because of the whole Instagram live thing, but we're going to sort of have some kind of like devotional offerings here, and so
I
I think,
we're gonna meditate with
yeah, I like that.
music. And if you believe in a higher power, if you believe in a God or an Allah, um, you can call on them. But if you believe in a force or a essence, you can call on that. And because this isn't meant. We're not trying to exclude nobody, and we just want a space where we can. There's a whole lot of energy going on in the world, and I think also it's important. And I want to also reiterate, especially for the Black people in this space, is it's okay to feel what you're feeling, and you gotta have, and I believe, what's that movie with the different emotions, right? Inside Out, and
Yeah.
you need all of them. You know what I mean? You need anger, you need grief, you need sadness, to push this forward. And I think right now it's going to make people wake up. If we aren't feeling, because I've been somebody where, as outspoken as I've been over these last 30 years, I've always sugarcoated it, even a little bit.
Yeah.
And now I'm realizing there's no more time. You know what I mean? There's no more time to sugarcoat it. I'm not trying to see more of my people go down like this. I'm not trying to see another video go viral. So you're going to see a lot of folks either expressing anger, expressing grief, and that's okay. And if you want to be in this space and if you feel those things, that's okay. If you want to interpret that through that lens, that's okay. And I thought I saw Van Lathan say something where, don't let anyone who didn't want to hear you cry, or don't let anyone who didn't want to listen to your pain tell you how loud to cry, or something like that. And I think that's important for us to realize is you can take care of yourself. You can feel the things that you're feeling. These things are important. And you can speak up and you can use your voice. That's our number one weapon. And we can exist in this space. And this space is meant for you to exist in whatever way that you need to exist in. But we're going to have a moment. We're going to sing some songs and play some music and see where it goes. But I just wanted that to be clear because I feel like, I don't want people to, I know there's a lot of energy going on in the world in this weekend. And I want it to be known that it makes a lot of sense. And if that's what you're feeling, that's what you're feeling. But yeah.
I think I'm really looking forward to hearing that saxophone.
Me too. Let me know if the levels are, because now that we've been going, might be hotter. You know,
Yeah.
how is my voice coming in?
And by the way, for those people who have mentioned, your voice is good, but we have another like 15 minutes at least until this
Yeah,
kicks out at the hour.
we started like 4:15. Do we
Yeah.
want to just do like a pop so we, in case songs like go in and out real quick and then just sort of safe, or do you want to just see how it goes?
I think we're good.
Cool. Okay.
And I'm just encouraging everybody here, if you have headphones on, if you don't, maybe consider them. I hope you can close your eyes and vibe with us. And if you want to sing along at any point too, we can't hear you, but someone can.
Yeah. What do we want to do first?
Maybe we could start with the little chant we were thinking of doing, the trade. Like I'll have the little chant, you do the thing.
Yeah, why don't you just do that one time through?
Okay.
Just so but let me give you that first note.
Yeah, give me the key.
Let me also just warm this bad boy up.
Yeah.
How's that? You can hear it?
Yeah, that's good actually. That sounds good.
So your first note's gonna be
Is there? Yeah. Yeah. Is there any remover of difficulties? Save God. Say praise be God. He is God. All are his servants, and all abide by his bidding. Is there any remover of difficulty? Say God. Say praise be God. He is God. All are his servants, and all abide by his bidding.
That came in okay?
Yeah, it sounds good to me, man. It's really nice.
Cool. I'm using a very, very, very bootlegged microphone. And so I'm still trying to get all my stuff together to really do justice to like shows here. So this is like my first
No, man.
real
No, it sounds,
dude.
Dude, I've also never done this. I'm singing in
true.
front of thousands of people. Well, I mean, I have, but not like this.
Yeah, we can't see their faces.
Yeah.
It's a little weirder. But I'm okay with that.
That's nice, man. It felt good for me, man. It felt good. And I mean, the sax sounds beautiful. I want to hear more of that. Why don't you play?
Yeah, I got a song, and it's called I'm gonna do the first song, because this is always the first song I do at gigs, and I'm excited because this is definitely going to be, with this song specifically, the biggest crowd or people I've done it with, and I feel like a lot of these people are in the age demographic that this will resonate with. It always resonates with people, and I took it from a I took a line that I heard from Chance the Rapper and I put it to music, and it's this song he does with Ziggy Marley. And if you all know these lyrics, you're more than welcome to sing along, and I'll do those lyrics for you. I could probably go louder, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna get by when the going gets rough. I'm gonna love life till I'm done growing up. And if I go down, then I go down swinging. I still smiling and my heart still singing. So that's how it goes. I'm gonna get by when the going gets rough. I'm gonna love life till I'm done growing up. And if I go down, then I go down swinging. I still smiling and my heart still singing, yeah. Ooh, ooh, how's that sound?
It sounds good, man.
Here we go. Somewhere, running through the rain, facing all the ghosts, running through the smoke. I know how it feels when it's hard to make a way. But we ride today, ain't no easy way to get through the day. When it's hard, we say, I'm gonna get by when the going gets rough. I'm gonna love life till I'm done growing up. And if I go down, then I go down swinging. I still smiling and my heart still singing. I'm gonna get by when the going gets rough. I'm gonna love life till I'm done growing up. And if I go down, then I go down swinging. I still smiling and my heart still singing. Singing, gonna get by when the going gets rough. I'm gonna love life till I'm done growing up. And if I go down, then I go down swinging. My still smiling and my heart still singing. Yeah. Woo. You can keep singing. And if I go down, then I go down swinging. My eyes still smiling and my heart still singing, yeah. We ride today, ain't no easy way when it's hard to get through the day. I'm gonna get by when the going gets rough. I'm gonna love life till I'm done growing up. And if I go down, then I go down swinging. I still smiling and my heart still singing. I'm gonna get by when the going gets rough. I'm gonna love life till I'm done growing up. And if I go down, then I go down swinging. I still smiling and my heart still singing, yeah. Yeah.
It's good. It's good to see you laughing. Anybody
Yeah.
laughing. I mean, it's just like, it was joyful, man.
So that's a song where I made the verse lyrics myself, and so I did that. I used to teach music with kids, and so I used to do that just as like a warm up exercise, and they just grabbed onto it so hard that
Yeah.
I then adapted it into a way, and then I started doing it at my shows, and then I was like, this just becomes integral, and then I put it on. Now it's going on my album, and when Kobe died in January, I was in the studio the very next day working on my album, and I was listening to this song, like this song, back, and it had me thinking about, you know, it was such an interesting time in this world, and we still had to get up and we still had to keep moving.
Mm.
And we rise, but we rise today. Ain't no easy way to get through the day. When it's hard, we say.
Mm.
And I think that's something, I call this song Morning Mantra because it's something I like to say to myself when I get up. And so it's something I always say. It's almost like a prayer. And it's just to psych me up. I've done it in spaces where there's conflict. And right now it's one of those songs where I sing it to myself because I need to sing it to myself.
Mm.
It kind of, when there's times like these where I feel all of these different things and I'm feeling all these different emotions, um, this is the song I turn to, and it's very strategic that I start every show with this because it sets me at ease, it sets everybody at ease, and so I figured um, we're all going through some things, and this would be a good way to start it. Yeah.
That's how we're gonna have to wrap up a little bit. I want to hear one more. I think we have about 5 minutes, 6 minutes.
Okay, I got time. I got time for one more, which works because the other one wasn't really working. I was having technical difficulties. Um, yeah. All right. So this next one is called I don't know, and I think I wrote this under different circumstances. But I think this is another song that I'm realizing sometimes you write songs for another circumstance and then you realize it's
Yeah.
for something else.
Yeah.
And this is also one where y'all can sing along. And there's a part in which I go, I just wanna be free. I just wanna be free. So y'all can sing along to that. All right. Yeah. Let's try that together. I just wanna be free. Yes, it works. Let's try that again. I just wanna be free. Let's keep that going a bit. Yeah. I just wanna be
I just wanna be
free. Yeah. I just wanna be
I just wanna be free.
So I'll play all the verse now. Yeah. We used to run in circles, yeah. I still run in circles, trying to catch the end of my own tail. We used to run away now. All I do is pray now, try to understand the word we're in. Let's do that again. I used to run in circles. I still run in circles, trying to catch the end of my own tail.
My own tail.
I used to run away now. All I do is pray now, trying to understand the world we're in. I don't know, hey, and I don't know, I don't know where I'm going anymore, and I don't know, I don't know who I am. Let's speed this up a little bit. I feel like it's a moment.
The levels are good too, at least to my ear.
I just wanna be free. I just wanna be. Here we go with the free. 1, 2, yeah. Free. And y'all know what I'm talking about, right? And I just wanna be.
I just wanna be
Free. I just wanna be free.
Just keep going. It's gonna take us out. It's gonna kick us off soon. Just keep
That's
going.
okay.
You know?
I just wanna be
free.
I just wanna be
free.
I just wanna be
I wanna be free.
Sing along. I just wanna be
I just wanna be free.
Keep that going. Gonna take the sax up. Keep going. I just wanna be
I just wanna be free. I just wanna be
I just wanna be
I just wanna be
Free.
free.
Yeah. Wow.
All right.
Thank you for that, man. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I needed that. I think it's hard sometimes during these times to create, but it's so good and it's so needed. And yeah, I hope other people felt the same way.
Yeah.
I don't know. We feel right now.
Yeah, man. Did the timing lag work? I tried to jump in and out.
That
Did it
timing
feel
works perfectly, which like
cool?
has me
Cool.
thinking like we should like as long as this is happening, if we want to do just outside of all this other stuff, I'd love to do some more stuff like this because that was
Yeah,
really
man.
good.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
always good
yeah.
to connect with you, man.
Man, always, and it's been like 4 years,
Yeah.
or no, 16 into 2017 winter school, so like 3 years. But that's still a very long
Yeah.
time that I haven't like seen you face to face. It was our first time hearing your voice and seeing your face move at the same time in 3 years.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, man. Thank you for this.
Thank you.
And I think let's leave this on we got a lot of folks have a lot of work to do, and it's not going to be easy. But if we want to move forward, it's the people who have been avoiding these conversations that have to be okay and willing and brave. This takes bravery, this takes courage, this takes strength, and there's no easy way, there's no shortcuts, and there's no simple way to have uncomfortable conversations and face uncomfortable truths.
It's the only way forward.
Yeah, man.
Thank you again for joining today.
Yeah, bro.
And for everyone listening, I suppose we might do this again.
Yeah. Definitely.
All right.
Well then, hey man, ashe.
Yeah. Aloha.
And we'll keep these conversations going. And my heart's out to everybody on the front lines and to all the lives lost.
Yeah.
All lives matter when Black lives matter. Yeah, man. All right, Joe.
Yeah.
Peace. I think you got to kick me out.
I do. I'm never gonna kick you out, man. Okay, yeah.
Oh no, I can do it too.
No, I'm gonna end it. All right. See y'all.